There are wounds we can't name, quiet ones that linger through sleepless nights, hidden behind a simple "I'm fine" when everything inside feels tangled. We grow up learning to tuck our emotions away, believing that being strong means never being vulnerable. Healing through awareness, a 5-day journey back to yourself, is a gentle, honest exploration. It doesn't promise to take away the pain, but it may help you understand why it hurts, why certain wounds keep returning, and why true healing begins only when you truly see yourself. Each episode is a soft step forward. If you're tired of always having to be strong, if all you need is a quiet space to breathe and come home to yourself, then this is an invitation just for you. A 5-day journey, no pressure, no rush, just honesty and a little gentle light made especially for you. Watch day 1 of the series. Recognizing emotion. Why do we suppress pain? That's where the journey begins. With the courage to name what we've long tried to silence. You may not know this, but that constant smile of yours is actually a scar that hasn't healed. The pain behind the smile, Mia's story. There's a kind of person you probably met, or maybe you are that person. Always smiling, always strong, always okay. They're the ones who are great at comforting others. The ones who always say, "I'm fine," even when their heart is just shattered. They're the go-to for advice, support, and comfort. But when the night falls and they're alone in a dark room, that's when loneliness quietly eats away at them piece by piece. Mia is one of those people. She works in communications at a startup, a young, energetic woman, always praised for having positive energy. Every morning, she arrives early, makes her own coffee, and greets her co-workers with a soft, gentle smile. On social media, Mia shares photos of her travels, books, tea, and captions like "grateful for life" or "slow down to love more." Mia started to doubt herself. She once thought she was just being weak, that maybe she was making up the sadness just to feel something. But the more she denied it, the worse it got. The insomnia, the random headaches, the loss of appetite. And those moments when she broke down in tears while folding laundry, not because of anything specific, but simply because the tears wouldn't stop. If you've ever felt like Mia, know this: you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not wrong. Defense mechanisms. How the mind protects us by hiding emotion. Sigmund Freud, the renowned psychoanalyst, famously described a phenomenon known as defense mechanisms. The mind's invisible armor used to protect us from emotional overwhelm. When you were a child, if expressing your emotions led to rejection, like being scolded for crying because it was weak, or being told you were disrespectful for showing anger, you likely learned to suppress those feelings. Emotions became something unsafe to express, and so they were buried deeper into the subconscious. You still feel anger, you still feel sadness, you still feel hurt, but all of it gets buried so well that even you can no longer tell it's there. Some of the most common defense mechanisms Freud described include repression, the most basic and widespread defense. You don't consciously remember the painful event, but it still influences your behavior and mood. Denial, you know you're hurting, but convince yourself, "I'm fine." Displacement, you're angry at your boss, but instead of expressing it, you lash out at your partner, children, or even yourself. Rationalization, you experience failure, but instead of acknowledging the disappointment, you say, "Maybe it just wasn't meant for me." The cost of suppression. According to psychiatrist Bessel van der Kolk, author of the best-selling book The Body Keeps the Score, emotions that are not processed properly do not simply disappear. They get stored in the body. It may sound surprising, but neuroscience has shown that when you hold back tears, suppress anger, or hide emotional wounds, your nervous system still registers these as chronic stress. Over time, this can show up as insomnia, unexplained body aches and pain, chronic fatigue, emotional numbness in relationships, digestive issues, rapid heartbeat, chronic headaches, and perhaps most significantly, You begin to lose touch with your own emotional reality. You might no longer know whether you're sad or happy, what you truly want or what you need. You respond out of habit, based on outdated emotional scripts, instead of living freely and fully in the present. We don't suppress emotions because we're weak. We do it because we've been hurt. Here's the truth. You weren't wrong for having suppressed your emotions. That was your way of surviving, a way to protect yourself from being judged, abandoned, or dismissed. But today, you're no longer living in that same environment. You've grown, and now you can learn to recognize your emotions again, not to drown in them, but to understand yourself more fully. In the next part, we'll explore the shadow, a concept introduced by Carl Jung, and why the emotional part of ourselves that we reject always find a way to return, no matter how long we've tried to avoid them. Have you ever been Mia, or are you still Mia, in your own story? If so, stay with us. We'll continue gently and with care. Carl Gustav Jung, the shadow we all carry. Carl Gustav Jung was one of the most influential thinkers in the fields of psychoanalysis and modern psychology, a one-time protege of Sigmund Freud, and eventually a key figure who broke away from him. Jung expanded the scope of psychology beyond Freud's focus on internal personal conflicts and defense mechanisms. Jung believed that within each of us lies a much deeper layer, a vast reservoir of shared emotional imprints, symbols, and memories common to all of humanity. He called this the collective unconscious. His seminal works, such as the archetypes and the collective unconscious and psychological types, introduce foundational concepts that remain central in psychology today. One of the most powerful among them is the idea of the shadow. According to Jung, the shadow is the part of ourselves we do not want to acknowledge. It includes emotions, thoughts, desires, and memories we've been taught to feel ashamed of because they seem weak, inappropriate, or frightening. When someone feels hurt but refuses to admit it, when we feel small but force a smile, when anger rises but we say, "It's fine," those feelings don't vanish. They sink into the darker recesses of the mind. They become the shadow. Jung wrote, "The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality. To become conscious of it involves recognizing the dark aspect of the personality as present and real. We often think we've moved on, but in truth, we may have just avoided the pain long enough to forget it. Someone who was once rejected in love may grow into a person who is emotionally detached, overly rational, and convinced that love is a weakness. Someone who was scolded for crying as a child may grow into an adult who cannot express emotions, not because they don't feel, but because they once learned that emotions were punishable. The shadow is not evil. It's simply a part of you that was once denied the right to exist. But here's the thing. The shadow doesn't stay buried forever. It finds ways to return through relationships, behavior, and emotional reactions. For example, you may find yourself lashing out irrationally at a loved one or feeling an unexplained fear or sadness. These are moments when the shadow is speaking to you. The more we try to deny our darkness, the more power it gains over our actions, silently, invisibly. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Repressed pain doesn't vanish. It shape-shifts. It may cause you to choose the wrong people, pursue the wrong goals, or fall into emotional cycles you can't explain. So how do we meet our shadow? Not by fighting it, but by facing it, by acknowledging its existence. When you feel sad for no clear reason, allow yourself to be sad. When anger rises and you're afraid of being judged, pause and ask where that anger comes from. When you feel lonely, don't rush to fill the void with noise or busyness. Try writing it down and listen to what that loneliness is trying to tell you. Recognizing your shadow is the first step toward living a more whole, authentic life, not just playing a role you believe others will accept. Jung never said this work would be easy, but he believed that only by confronting the darkness within can we truly be free. Because when you're no longer running, you're no longer hiding, and you no longer need to live someone else's life just to mask who you really are. In the next section, we'll explore how suppressed emotions manifest in the body, mind, and behavior, even when you're unaware of them. More importantly, we'll learn how to start a dialogue with them. with gentleness, not judgment. If you've lived as someone strong out of necessity, perhaps now is the time to allow yourself to be a little vulnerable, and finally, to be honest with yourself. We often think emotions are invisible, but the body remembers. We often think of emotions as intangible, like passing winds or vague thoughts in the mind. But the truth is, repressed emotions don't just live in the mind. They leave clear, physical imprints in the body, day by day, like a form of biological memory. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, psychiatrist and author of The Body Keeps the Score, spent decades studying survivors of psychological trauma, from war, domestic violence, to childhood emotional wounds. What he discovered was both unsettling and accurate. The body remembers, even when the mind is forgotten. Imagine your body as a storage system, a place where all the emotions that were never allowed to exist begin to accumulate. In your muscles, nervous system, heartbeat, breath, hormones. Over time, if these feelings aren't processed or released, they start to speak to you in the form of physical symptoms. Have you ever experienced the following? Persistent fatigue despite getting enough sleep. Insomnia without any clear reason. Tension in the neck, shoulders, chest tightness, stomach discomfort. Rapid heartbeat when someone raises their voice. A general sense of sadness, anxiety, or unease with no obvious cause. Trouble focusing, forgetfulness, or overreacting to small triggers. These may not be signs of a physical illness. They could be the body's way of expressing repressed emotion. When you were not allowed to feel sadness, your body mourned for you. When you couldn't express anger, your stomach twisted under pressure. When you denied that you were hurt, your nervous system acted as if you were in real danger, remaining in a chronic state of fight or flight. Many people go through life not understanding why they always feel tired or get emotional too easily. They undergo tests, try various therapies, eat clean, do yoga, sleep on schedule, yet still something feels off. They blame themselves. I'm too weak, too sensitive, or something's wrong with me. But in truth, they may simply be carrying a heavy emotional load that's never been acknowledged or named. A woman who never cried after a painful breakup may later experience unexplained chest pain. A man who was abandoned by his parents as a child but never spoke about it may grow up with chronic insomnia. A child who was scolded for showing emotion may grow into an adult who cannot name what they feel, only that they feel off or empty. The body is a journal we never write in by hand. Yet it records everything page by page through sensation and physiological response. Modern neuroscience has confirmed that the brain regions responsible for emotional memory, such as the amygdala and hippocampus, are deeply connected to the autonomic nervous system. In other words, emotional memories directly influence heart rate, digestion, immune function, and more. And most importantly, rejected emotions do not disappear. They only go quiet until you're safe enough to hear them. Many people can't cry, not because they're not sad, but because they were punished for crying. Many can't express anger because they were taught that anger is bad. Many can't voice their needs because every time they did as a child, they were labeled selfish. These individuals grow up holding a deep, false belief that they shouldn't feel anything too deeply, that silence is strength, that if they endure long enough, the pain will eventually fade. But emotions don't vanish. They settle and wait for you to return. Remember, emotion is never the problem. Repression is. So no, you don't need to forget the past. You just need to allow yourself to feel what you once had to deny. Not to get lost in it, not to dwell, but to face it, to understand it. Start with something small. Instead of asking, am I okay? Try asking, what am I really feeling right now? And if the answer doesn't come immediately, that's okay. Let your body guide you. Sometimes that tightness in your chest or that chill along your spine when you're anxious, that's the map leading you back to the deepest part of yourself. In the next section, we'll explore a simple but powerful practice. Writing just 3 sentences a day to reconnect with your forgotten emotions. It's not just journaling, it's an act of courage, a way of telling yourself, I'm ready to listen. And from that moment forward, the real healing begins. 3 sentences a day, a small act to heal a deep wound. You've now explored 3 essential parts of your inner world: recognizing emotions, understanding defense mechanisms, and meeting your inner shadow by listening to the body signals. But none of that will truly matter unless you begin the journey, no matter how small that first step may be. In this final part, I invite you to try something that seems simple, but maybe one of the hardest things to do: be honest with yourself. And we'll start with just one practice. Write 3 sentences a day. Why write? And why only 3? Because writing slows you down. It pulls you out of the spinning thoughts in your mind and places them on paper, where you can finally see them clearly as an observer. That's the moment when you step out of the automatic mode, the space where we react by habit, and into awareness, where you are fully present with yourself. And why just 3 sentences? Because you don't need a lot to begin. You only need one repeated act, small enough to not feel intimidating, simple enough to prevent excuses. But if you do it consistently for 21 days, you'll start to notice something shift. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, steadily, like a seed beginning to stir beneath the soil. Sentence 1. What am I feeling right now? Not what should I be feeling? Or how do I want to appear? But simply, what am I truly feeling? It might be sadness, exhaustion, loneliness, emptiness, or rejection. But it might also be calm, curiosity, or relief. There is no wrong feeling, only feelings that haven't yet been named. Many people struggle with this at first. They don't know what they're feeling, just that it's vague, jumbled, or numb. But that is a feeling too: disconnection, freeze. You could write something like, I feel numb, like nothing's really happening, but I know there's something underneath trying to surface. What matters isn't getting it right. What matters is getting it real. Sentence 2. Why? This question invites you inward. It doesn't require a logical explanation, and it's not about analyzing or fixing. It's simply about listening to the emotion you just named. You might write, because no one asked how I was today. Because I felt compared, even if no one said anything. Because I feel invisible in my own home. And sometimes you won't know the reason. That's okay too. You can write, I don't know why, but this is what I feel. And I accept that. That act of permission, of not forcing yourself to justify everything, is part of healing. Sentence 3. What do I want? This is perhaps the most important question, because it reconnects you to your true inner needs. Maybe you've never asked yourself, what do I want? Especially if you were raised to always put others first. But emotional repression often begins the moment we stop honoring our own desires. Be honest. I want someone to hold me. I want one day where I don't have to be strong. I want to rest without feeling guilty. I want someone to really listen, without advice, just presence. Writing down what you want doesn't mean you'll receive it immediately. But if you don't know what you want, you'll keep getting lost in things that aren't true to you. Here's a full example. I feel empty because I laughed a lot today, but no one asked if I was really happy. I want someone to just sit next to me in silence. No words needed. Just 3 sentences. But if you write them every day, you're sending a signal to the deepest part of yourself. I'm here now. I'm listening. How should you write them? Handwritten or typed, it doesn't matter. What matters is privacy and honesty. Choose a consistent time each day, right before bed or just after waking up. Don't edit. Don't judge. Don't try to sound poetic. Write as if you were speaking to your closest friend, yourself. And if there's a day you don't write, don't blame yourself. Just return the next day. Healing is not a straight line. It's made of gentle returns after every detour. Conclusion. No one taught us how to feel, but now you can begin to learn, starting with just 3 sentences. 3 sentences to name what's been silent. 3 sentences to loosen the knot. 3 sentences to open a door you've long kept shut, the one that leads back to yourself. And once you walk through that door, you are no longer someone simply surviving. You are someone returning to wholeness, to selfhood, to a life worth living. Not because you're perfect, but because you've chosen to be honest about what was once forgotten. Thank you for staying with me until the end of today's journey. If writing just 3 sentences has helped open even a small corner of your soul, then that is already the first step toward healing. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss day 2, the science behind it, how stress hormones shape your life. Together, we'll explore the biological systems behind emotions and how your body is working every day to protect you, even when you don't realize it. See you in the next video. And remember, you deserve to be heard, even if it's only by yourself.